Good morning, Minister. Thanks for making sure that I'm here, sir. I had to be when I got that call immediately. Good morning to all our viewers and listeners. With regard to content, Manchester, and there are some other names that are around. Some people may know it as Kirkvine, and some people may know it as South Kendall. We're speaking about the same area. What is happening there is that in one sentence, groundwater has been rising. Why is groundwater rising? Now, that is the scientific question. What is happening is that there's an aquifer. Water is flowing underneath the whole of those lands and those properties. But it is not the normal aquifer that a lot of you are accustomed to, which is a sand, earth kind of aquifer. It is more limestone. So because of the limestone, there are a number of conduits and caves and caverns that are underground. So the groundwater has been flowing into the area. What is happening also is that groundwater advances very slowly. It doesn't advance forward underground as fast as a river flows above ground. So because it advances slower, and we had a lot of rain through Melissa, a lot of rain before Melissa, it means that our aquifer, in simple terms, filled up. And since it can't go forward as much, it has been rising instead. Now, in this area, there are sinkholes, and normally these sinkholes pull the water away, drain the water away from the low-lying areas. But in this instance, because the aquifer has so much water, which is under so much pressure, it's pushing water up the sinkholes. So the sinkholes are having a reversed effect, and that is where the water actually, most of the water is being sourced from, that is coming into the content area. This was recognized over a period of a little bit more than a month from prior to Melissa. We'd been monitoring, and underground the water has risen roughly 300 feet from the normal level that the aquifer was at. It has risen roughly 300 feet. A little bit more now, because now it has also popped out and is coming up out of the ground in these areas. We have installed monitoring gauges in that area, and over time we had been seeing for the last 2 weeks essentially a groundwater rise above surface of 1 foot per day, which is a very high rate of flow of rise for this area. And just of late, in the last 24 to 36 hours, we've been noticing a little bit of a fluctuation where it slowed down a bit, sped up a bit. So we're hoping, and I can only say that we're hoping at this stage that the groundwater is balancing out, and then eventually will start receding. Is this the first time that this is happening there? No, it isn't, actually. We had a major flood in that area in 2002, and we also had a very serious flood there in 1977, when, as a matter of fact, unfortunately, 2 lives were lost in that instance. In this instance, a lot of care has been taken by the powers that be. I understand that the Member of Parliament, the councillors, everybody had jumped up and got mobilized, all of the people that were in that area, and it is my understanding that a lot of what was happening there, a lot of the property has been salvaged, saved, and been put away for preservation, so that the people would not have lost that. So the question is, when is it going to recede? When is it going to really start receding? That is something that we can't say immediately. However, the other question is, how fast will it take to go down once it starts receding? Well, that is once it starts receding, our gauges are there. We can monitor those gauges, and then we can now give an estimate of how long it will take to recede. The last time, June 2002, in early June, the flood started, and the end of June, it had basically receded. So in that instance, once it started receding, it took about 3 weeks. We will see what is happening here in this case. And that is the situation, essentially, for content Manchester. There are other areas, Minister. I don't know if you want anything to be said. Okay, so we are monitoring other areas, of course. We are monitoring the Newmarket area, which is traditionally known for flooding. We're monitoring Chigwell, again, that has flooded out in the past a number of times. We're monitoring Monique in St. Anne. In Cambridge, in St. James, there is some amount of flooding there. And that is because the river, the Sevens River, has broken its banks, and it is not groundwater in this case. It is now the river that has basically diverted in through the community, similar to what has happened with Cave River and also Brighton outside of Santa Cruz. These places have been terribly devastated, and in all instances, it's not groundwater rising. In some instances, it is rivers that have broken their banks, and in some instances, it is just a phenomenal amount of rainfall that flowed down into these depression areas. But once the communities are built out in the areas that are low-lying, it is anticipated, unfortunately, that if groundwater rises or if there's a lot of surface water running in, that there will be some amount of flooding, which is exactly why our friends at the Met Office say that the people in the low-lying areas need to be extremely cautious and take heed and all of that because of the possibility and their vulnerability to flooding.
Thank you, Peter. So in summary, the Water Commission has been impacted by Hurricane Melissa to the tune of $10